This year put the stone down. Our friend, the theologian J.M. writes, John 8:7. He got up and said to them, He who is without sin among you will be the first to cast a stone at her. Another civil war is unfolding around us, a spiritual civil war. A simple trick centered on the church, the two warring factions inside and outside it, those who go to church, the congregation, and those who don't go. One accuses the other for 1,002 reasons, true and false. I just came back from Vespers from our church. In the Grecian Orthodox faith, we have, this is the week of Christ's Passion. And one of a teenager that was sitting next to me with his brother said their sister doesn't want to go for confession. She doesn't want to come. And then he asked me to tell him, what should he tell her to coax her to come to confession and have Holy Communion? So I told him the story of my son. When my son was about 13 years old, he told me to take him to the church for confession. It was summertime. He told me to wait outside, and he was confessing. At the end of the confession, the penitent kneels down, and the priest places the stole over him and recites an exorcism prayer. And then I saw him get up and walk out. And when he was walking out, he grabbed me by the elbow and he says, Mom, I'm going to tell you this one time. Don't make fun of me, but this is true. He says, when I got up to walk out from the church to you, my feet were not touching the ground. Now, I have read of these experiences, these spiritual experiences that Christ gives us a personal experience to entice us, to bring us to him, and nobody can tell him that it wasn't real. So he was even taping, the young boy was taping me to give this message to his sister. I said, Jesus is so happy that we're in the sacraments, that he's in glee. I remember I took a friend of mine, she was in her early 40s, a very Zoftic, beautiful woman. I took her for a confession. She asked me to take her. I took her to my father confessor. She was in there for 20 minutes. When she came out, she said to me with childlike, infant-like, innocent eyes. Her eyes were gleaming with innocence. She says, I have to tell you what happened. I have to tell you what happened. I said, no, you can't tell me what happened in your confession. That's between you and the priest. No, I have to tell you what happened, she says. I was telling him everything, various things. There was one sin I didn't tell him. And all the suggestions and his advice he was giving me was only for that sin. That's what I knew in my heart. It was only for that sin. In other words, the priest was able to see that one thing that I wasn't telling him. And I said to her, it's not the priest, it's Christ that's through the priest working for your soul. So when I took her to the train station, the subway to go back home, I had a Holy Bible in my car, and we opened up at random, as the church says. The passage that fell to her was, now that I've cleansed you, ask me for anything you want. That was the passage. Can you imagine Jesus Christ's joy when one of his children comes for cleansing through the sacrament of Holy Confession? Anyway, that's what the teenager recorded my voice telling, he's going to show it to his sister and to his uncle. But anyway, going back to this, those who go to church, the congregation, and those who don't go, one accuses the other for 1,002 reasons, true and false. Those inside the churches accuse those outside of indifferences and many other things, and those outside the church of their hypocrisy inside the church. The reason for this is invisible warfare, is the pride on both sides, and the lack of humility that leads to loss, to the inability of self-knowledge. In a problematic relationship, both sides have responsibility, a responsibility that if they don't take on, the issue won't be resolved. That's why marriages are destroyed. The same happens with the relationship between clergy and people. There's a flock that follows a priest and one that does not want to see them, not to go to, well, for sacraments, for example. The priests blame the laity and the laity their priests, and both sides are right and wrong. When I go to church this year, the church where the people are the people and the clergy with Christ as authority and head, who acts through the mysteries, the sacraments, through the priests, every time a thought wants to make me not to step there again, let me remember this: the sinless one of you is the first to throw a stone at her. That's the event that took place with the adulteress, that when they brought the adulteress to Christ to say, what should we do with her? Now, this is how the principle of repentance begins. This is how I stay in the church, and this is how I progress spiritually. This is how the Paschal season, Easter, acquires another meaning. Yes, Lord King, forgive me my sins, and do not criticize my brother. Happy Easter, good enlightenment, and beginning of repentance. This is by GM, our friend the theologian. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.